Welcome everyone to the Contemporary Issues Adult Sunday School class, we call it. We are so pleased today to have Professor Peter Van Arsdale, one of our regular members, telling us about a very interesting time in his life as a cultural anthropologist and professor at DU when he discovered a uncontacted group, a tribal group in New Guinea. And he's going to talk about similar groups around the world today. And we're going to ask him questions about a career in anthropology and about human nature, all that wrapped into one today. So we are very pleased to do that. But first, I want to welcome our first-time guest and friends of Peters and Kathy that are here from the Lyric Opera.
I'll introduce them.
You'll introduce it? Okay. Very welcome. My name is Steve, and we want to welcome you. And our Zoomers, we want to welcome our Zoom people from around the country, and nice to have you here. Please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen when you're not speaking. And we are recording this for future playback on YouTube for those who cannot be here today and would like to see it. We like to do that. And we will have no slides today, but Peter is going to talk and have a 7-minute video of the tribe in New Guinea, which does feature a little bit of nudity on the part of the men of the tribe, but it is not up close, it's not extreme, but we want to give you that disclaimer up front. No zoom in.
No zoom ins.
Nothing shocking, but we want to give you that disclaimer
Fair warning.
before we go. That's for us. Okay. We want to take just a minute, talk about any announcements. We're not going to talk about current events today because we could spend the whole hour talking about that, and we don't have an hour today. We will soon dedicate an hour to current events going on in the world today. I think in 2 weeks, we're going to do that. But with that, there's a potluck today for the whole church. It'd be a good socializing event. And there are classes. I always like to promote the classes the church is having. Look on the website and see what Rev Jerry is doing with classes in the church and on virtual Zoom also. Lots of good things, but we don't talk about it a lot in church or from the pulpit. Sometimes we tend to forget that. So hope you will pay attention to that. Okay, with that, I want to introduce Peter. For those who don't know him, Dr. Van Arsdale, from his Wikipedia page, going to give a very short biography. He's an American academic who retired as the director of African initiatives at the University of Denver School of International Studies. He was also a researcher with the Cross Cultural Corporation based in Colorado. And he's been a cultural anthropologist, worked in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, North Africa, and many other places, and specialized in human rights, refugee issues, and humanitarian intervention. He's also been former president of the Anthropology Association, and he was the co-founder of Denver Hospice, which has grown to be the largest hospice in Denver area.
Thank you.
And one of his most proud accomplishments was our topic today in 1974 when he discovered a previously uncontacted people in New Guinea. So we're going to hear about that. And I want to read just a couple of points from Wikipedia page on uncontacted groups. And he is going to expand and tell us more about this. But Wikipedia says uncontacted people are groups of indigenous peoples without sustained contact with the outside world. They are all over the world and still are there. The Survival International group says there are 100 to 200 uncontacted tribes, numbering at least 10,000 people still across the world. In 10 countries, especially South America, Asia, and the Pacific. Brazil alone has 124 groups that have not been contacted.
Wow.
by people. There is a push, and I'm sure Peter talked about this, to not overly contact them because of the spread of modern diseases. Survival International said that half of the world's 196 tribes could be wiped out within 10 years if much continued contact occurs. And it has been because, especially in Brazil, because of logging, mining, and other industry contacts. So it exposes these people to white people's disease. It has killed many of them that way. So I just wanted to throw that out as a setup for this. And thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah.
Please welcome Peter Van Arsdale.
Thanks, folks. Great to see you. Great to welcome all of our friends. I know so many of you, you're great friends and colleagues. I want to particularly point out our good friends from the Denver Lyric Opera Guild who are here today as our invitees. And thanks to my dear wife, Kathy, who's both a member and former president of the Denver Lyric Opera Guild. And the people are Phyllis and her son Tom and Rebecca and Gail, and in a double role, Nora Lee.
Hi, guys.
You already know Nora Lee from our class. She's also a key member of the Denver Lyric Opera Guild. So welcome all of you great musicians. And by the way, along that line, speaking of music, Kathy pioneered the ethnomusicological work on the coast of New Guinea. Among the Asmat people, you see the name Asmat up in the upper left. Kathy did the first ever ethnomusicological study of those people, and it was published. And if you'd like to read any of her publications, we'll be delighted to share them with you. It's a terrific accomplishment by Kathy, and her publications began in 1980.
You told about the type of music they produce.
Ethnomusic of that area. Yep. So, my friends, as Steve has said when he nicely invited me to do this, we want to talk about this in the context of a first contact and what that means. And as he also pointed out, in the context of humanity, I want you to be thinking about what it means to be human, what it means to meet other humans. What are the differences, the similarities, what strikes you as important? You can ask me as I shared with Vicki, you can ask me absolutely any question you want. Will I have the answer about all of it? Probably not, but I'll try. But you can ask me anything about what you see or what stimulates your thought once you've seen what I have the privilege of sharing with you. As Steve said, this was one of the most monumental things in my life, this discovery in March of 1974. And in that regard, one more thing about humanity. My team and I, we were the aliens there. The people live there. They're not the aliens. They're the irregular, indigenous, culturally attuned, smart people. They just also happen to be headhunters and cannibals. And we'll talk about that. Don't hesitate to ask me about those things, because that's a sensitive topic. I'll put it in the proper context and be glad to do that. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions, including about that. So, as you see from the handout, I was honored to have this in Expedition News, which is an international newspaper, about a year ago or so, on the approximate 50th anniversary of our discovery. And Kathy has handed out, does everybody have a copy? Anybody who doesn't have a copy? Okay, very good. We have extra copies. Kathy has more to share. And you can read either now or later about it. There's a brief overview of some of the highlights of our discovery and a picture of one of the leaders of the group that we discovered. Steve correctly mentioned that there are a number of groups still in the world who are, in a sense, not contacted, but we have to put a point to that. In most cases, they're known. They might not want to be contacted. And so the 100 plus that Steve mentions, most of them are known and most have been seen from the air, from expeditions, from logging companies in the various areas that Steve correctly mentioned, from Southeast Asia through South America, Brazil in particular. So you need to think of it particularly in that way. Many of those 100 plus, as Survival International has talked about them, don't want to be contacted. And we'll talk about one of those particular groups from the Andaman Islands in the Indian Ocean in a bit before we get into the details of mine. Now, as Steve said, I have a 7 or 8 minute film that I'm going to show you. We'll show it 15 or 20 minutes from now after we set the stage. And then after that, I'll share a few more points. And then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. I'm not going to, like some folks do, they get so excited to talk that they think Q&A, Q&A, Q&A. Oh, wait, we only have 30 seconds for Q&A. I'm going to avoid that. I'll have plenty of time for Q&A because I want you to ask your toughest questions. I really do. And if it's controversial, please ask. I'm welcome to tackle it as best I can. About 85% of all Earth's viable land has been occupied or altered by humans. 85%.
Wow.
That means 15% in remote areas like the tundra, of North Russia or something like that, hasn't been. But with that amazing human footprint, you'll want to know that the people who are still remaining isolated, the indigenous people, and Steve correctly used that word as indigenous people, most of them live within that 85%, not in the 15%. The 15% is like the tundra of Russia, the tundra of North Canada. They don't live there. Most of these folks live in more tropical and semi-tropical areas, which are known. And in those areas, there have been developments by humankind. I like what Edward Sheffield, who has worked with remote people in New Guinea, said in one of his books. Meeting people like this who are so amazing and bring something from your own heart and soul are like people you see in a dream. That's kind of the way I felt about this, and I don't want to romanticize it. I simply want to share with you my feelings, having been privileged to meet these people. Well, why do we explore? Well, Kathy will tell you, I'm an inveterate adventurer, for better or worse, hopefully for better. I love to explore. There's never been a trail I've seen, including the trails out here near our church, that I don't want to walk on. And those are nice paved trails that are, go right over here into the houses. But in any case, in every case, I love a trail. I love a remote area. And I've been privileged to go to them from the deserts to the tundras and to the savannas, and in this case, to the jungles. I'll tell you, my friends, if you've ever had a chance to go into a remote jungle, whether it's on a trip you've taken or with friends or on a professional basis, it is a privilege to be in a jungle with the diverse plant life, animal life, and often people life. Exploration, as the National Geographic said this 2 years ago in an article, exploration is what humans do. I like that. We just like to do it. We're curious. I'm extremely curious about other people. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not, but I remain curious. And there's also a mysterious phenomena, as National Geographic also pointed out, with people, other people, that we need to decipher as best we can as explorers, as professionals, in my case, as an anthropologist. In doing so, we also need to be open. We need to dispel stereotypes about other people. Let me just name two very quickly. The stereotype of the savage. Dispel that. We don't use that term for such people. It's inappropriate. It's demeaning. We don't use it. And the stereotype of primitive. We don't use that. We can talk about different cultures, different traditions, systems of care and intervention, etc. We no longer say savage or primitive. Blessedly, we've eliminated those sad stereotypes. But as Adam Goodhart wrote, there is the allure of the uncontacted. I had that same allure, my friends, 50 years ago, 51 years ago, on the expedition you'll hear about. Here are some of the things, and you can ask me about any one or more of these things later on in the Q&A. Here's the kind of things you have to think about when you're voyaging or adventuring or exploring or researching, and we're also, of course, researching while we are on our way. some of which you might be surprised, all of which impacted me and my team of 6 people. I was the co-leader of the team of 6 people. The trek itself, of course, and navigating, where you're going, and how do you get there, and how do you avoid getting lost? We certainly had to work on that point. You can be sure you'll find out why. Logistics and supplies, critical. You know that, you're all smart folks. Logistics and supplies are absolutely essential. And you don't want to have too many supplies, but you want to have the right kind of supplies. The sustenance that relates to that, food and beverage. And may I say also, and you're welcome to even ask me about things like this, the disposal of human waste. Yes, you've got to take care of that, hopefully in a way that's commodious, not degrading of the environment, and gives you a bit of privacy when you're on a team on a small boat like we were that had no bathroom. I mean, these are, yeah, you're welcome to chuckle because I chuckle. I mean, that's part of it, which is one of my next points. Humor. In these things, we have to have humor about ourselves. We have to be humble. Often you'll find humorous things in the people you meet. We certainly did. You'll hear about some humorous things in the people I had the privilege of meeting. Of course, the people who aid you. If you have porters, we did not have porters. If you had interpreters, we had interpreters. Except they weren't able to interpret the language because nobody had ever contacted these people before, so they didn't know their language. But we had such folks with us. Helpers. What are the psychosocial issues? Our expedition was about 2 weeks long. That's relatively short. It was very intense. Many expeditions go for months or years. And in particular, in those, you have to worry also about, at times, the psychosocial issues and the dynamics. We talk about that in this class and other ways. We have to be concerned with that and sensitive to it. And what if somebody's struggling in some way, psychosocially or interpersonally? You have to be aware of that. The funding, in our case, I was lucky enough to get funding from the Crozier Mission, the Catholic Crozier Mission working in that area, who was also interested in this expedition and what we might find. And I had studied part of the Crozier's work and their missionization work as a part of my doctoral dissertation, which was why I was in New Guinea in 1974. I was completing my doctoral dissertation work. One element of it was, what's the impact of missionaries? And of course, scientific observations. I'll share a few with you that we've made. Disease, maybe death. We blessedly didn't have any deaths. But along the way, we came across people previously contacted, remote people, but previously contacted, who told us about the deaths in their villages. How? Because of flu introduced by outsiders. In one village, a nice young man sat there. We spoke, he knew the Indonesian language is the Indonesian Franca of that country, because this is Indonesian New Guinea we're going to be talking about. And I'll show you the map in a second. And in Indonesian, which I speak, he said about 10% of the people in our village died within the last 3 months of flu.
Sounds like
So-
the American Indians, right?
Very
Sounds familiar.
Yep,
Very
you're familiar problem, absolutely. And then, of course, the personalities. There's always going to be different personalities within your team. We had commodious, compatible personalities among our 6. We had 3 indigenous colleagues and 3 Western colleagues. Blessedly, we all got along extremely well. And then with expeditions, you also have to think about the legends and the rumors. I mentioned the mysteries, but what if there are legends or rumors or things that throw you off? After all, when we made this expedition, we only had the rumor that there was somebody out there to find because they hadn't been found. Therefore, we followed a rumor, which we thought, yeah, Jim's over there, Chuck, he likes that one. He's a psychologist, no wonder he likes that one. So, you know, we lucked out. We lucked out. We were well organized, we navigated well, and we got lucky. Now, my friends, here is, I'm going to put down the microphone for a minute, but I'll speak loudly. As Bob said, be sure to do that. But I have to stand over here to show you the map. So here is the island of New Guinea. This whole gigantic island. If you notice, don't you think it looks kind of like a squatting bird?
Yeah.
They call it that. They call it that. Those of us who've seen the whole island, of course, the people who live there haven't seen their whole island because they live there, but those of us from the outside and who've mapped, it's often called the island. And you guessed it, this part over here is called the bird's head. It kind of looks like the head of a bird, doesn't it? Maybe this is a squatting turkey or something like that. But any event, right down the middle, right squat down the middle, you notice I've drawn a line. That is the line. It's absolutely north-south straight with one dip right there, separating PNG, which is the country of Papua New Guinea. It's called PNG for short. It's an independent country, has been for several decades, from the western part, the west of that line, which is Indonesian New Guinea. That's where this all takes place, Indonesian New Guinea. It's the easternmost part of the vast archipelago of Indonesia, which, as you might know, is 3,000 miles long and has thousands of islands. This is the easternmost part of the country of Indonesia. There's the mountain range running down the middle. It's a huge mountain range. Right there at the red mark is what's called Puncak Jaya. That's Indonesian. Puncak Jaya is the tallest mountain, not only in New Guinea. New Guinea, by the way, is the second largest island in the world. You notice my scale? Look at the size of it. It's 1,500 miles long. It's gigantic. And that Puncak Jaya, that red mark, is the tallest mountain. It's over 16,000 feet tall. It's not only the tallest mountain in New Guinea, it's the tallest mountain in all of Southeast Asia and Oceania. Interesting, huh? My friend has climbed that. I have not.
Does it have a glacier?
It has several glaciers, Eric. You're absolutely correct. Now, you might say, well, how many tribes and people are there? What's amazing is this is an ancient land. People have lived there a minimum of 40,000 years, a minimum. Now, when people came in and started studying and learning more, they found that there was at least, just an estimate, 3,000 different languages or subdialects. They're mountainous, people are separated, they have developed different languages over the thousands of years, etc. Unbelievable. Some of those languages have disappeared, like happens with other indigenous languages under contact and under development and under modernization, etc. No surprise. How many people live there now? In the Indonesian half, over 5 million people. In the Papua New Guinea half, over 11 million people. That's a lot of people in a mountainous and rough terrain. But today, when I'll take you where these rivers are shown right here, and that's where we're going on those rivers, you'll be pleased to know I only drew the rivers that we're going on, not all the rivers of New Guinea, which would have taken me 3 hours to draw. They're all over the place. I've only drawn the rivers that I traveled on. So be of good cheer. And the green spot, maybe less than 100 miles from the Papua New Guinea border, is where we made our discovery. So I'll go back to the microphone. Steve appropriately alluded to some of the points that we raise about uncontacted people. Hampton Sides wrote a very interesting book recently called The Wide, Wide Sea about James Cook's, particularly his third and final voyage. And he pointed out, because Cook made many first contacts in his first, second, and third voyages in the Pacific region. Sides called it the theater of first contact. I like that because he's telling us to beware. We see things, we expose things, we want to expand on things, we want to get credit for things, we want to exploit things. I don't, but people do, including with these kind of contacts, which can be romanticized, can't they?
Oh, yeah.
And expanded and inappropriately touted. But the other words like uncontacted is used, lost is used. Well, these people aren't lost. They know exactly where they live.
There.
What are their comments about societies with multiple wives?
Well, very briefly, we'll get into things like that later, but these people do have multiple wives. Yes, yeah. Thanks for asking. They do. You're welcome to ask me. They do not. No,
She asked, they had multiple
no,
husbands.
they do not. They do not. But multiple wives, yes. And the person near the coastal area, right here, where Kathy and I did, where I did my main doctoral work and where Kathy did her wonderful musical work, right there, the coastal, right before where the river begins. The man that I met, who's a prominent tribal leader, a Wawipich in their language, he had 6 wives. 6 wives. That was the most. And why? Because he was the most powerful. So interesting. And by the way, with the Christian missionization in that area, including by both Protestants and Catholics, which we mentioned, you can guess that they were railing against multiple wives to the people and baptizing people. And one day, one of those people on the coast near where Kathy and I was there in 74 doing most of my work, and she was there in 79 doing most of her work. I was honored one day at a baptism when the lady said, "I'd like to name my son Peter in honor of Peter Van Arsdale." Well, that was very much of an honor.
Moral beauty.
So, but you have to think of what that means, pro and con possibly. Yeah, so that's something to be taken seriously, but I was honored because she thought of me and liked me. So the people are remote, they're secluded, they're unknown. Sometimes the word Stone Age is used. They used to use that, even National Geographic would use that until recent decades. That's incorrect. This is not the Stone Age. The Stone Age ended several thousand years ago, the Neolithic and whatnot. These people might have stone tools, and they do, but they're not living in the Stone Age because they're living in the modern age. You got me? Yeah, they just might not be modern people. That's an interesting point, isn't it? They're not living in the Stone Age. Well, a few of the other exciting expeditions, and we're going to get into mine in about 2 minutes, were such as, just giving you 3 interesting examples. Sir Richard Burton, and I'm not talking about the actor, I'm talking about the first Sir Richard Burton, the explorer. And in the 1850s, you'll recall, because you folks are all good students of history, Sir Richard Burton embarked from Zanzibar on the east coast of Africa and mounted a foot-based expedition heading west to what became known as Lake Tanganyika. In part, he was searching, as you recall, for the source of the Nile River. Did he meet uncontacted, previously unknown people along the way? Yes, he did. But he also met people who had been known, including earlier to Arab traders in the area. He might have been the first European in some cases, but not the first outside person. We think about those things as we think about discovery. Another interesting one takes us back to James Cook, because James Cook, on his first expedition, almost exactly 200 years before I went there, came to the same area of the New Guinea coast with his boats. And that's something, he came right here. Kathy and I were working right here. He came right here on the Casuarina coast, right there, just south, and made a brief contact and left. Isn't that something? I arrived almost exactly 200 years later. Interesting. And the third unknown, so to speak, is the Andaman Islands that I mentioned briefly. In the Andaman Islands, there's an island called North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean. All these islands are under the control of the nation of India. On that island are a group of maybe, we don't know how many, 50 to 100 or 50 to 200 people who choose to remain uncontacted. They're well known to outsiders. I mean, they're right there in the Andaman Islands. The Andaman Islands also welcome tourists and whatnot. People go there regularly. But this one island has one group, and they choose to remain uncontacted. And to the Indian government's credit, they have protected that mandate. Isn't that interesting? Interesting, very interesting. More so than most other folks like Brazilian government and some of the others. They've been very good at protecting the wishes of these people. Well, John Allen Chau, Chau, an erstwhile young man with a mission intent, a Christian mission intent, took a boat, a fishing boat, out to near the island. It has no docks or anything and doesn't have any way to welcome visitors and doesn't welcome visitors. Jumped off from the boat, swam ashore in his attempt, as was later reported, to reach Satan's last stronghold.
Oh,
Shortly after he arrived, he was killed with,
good.
by bows and arrows.
I hope they cooked him.
They did not. Humor's okay. Humor's okay. They did not cook him. So his event went viral. People learned about it, talked about it. But the point is, he wasn't welcome and he was killed. He was trying to make a kind of first contact, wasn't he? It was unsuccessful for those reasons. So we don't want to romanticize any of this or make it more than it is, but it is amazing and it's interesting. And that's the way I view it and the way I hope you good friends will view it with me. So our expedition went on those rivers that you're now looking at on the map. These rivers right here. And briefly, I'm going to point to, does everybody see the green dot okay? The laser dot? Good. So we went on these rivers. I won't give you all the names of the rivers. They all have different names. I'll mention maybe a couple. But we went here, up here, heading east. Then we first went up here, up this branch there, and then went up the left-hand branch there, then came back down and went up this branch here, close to the foothills of the mountains, and came down. And then we came here to that junction, starts wiggling a little, and then we came up here and we went up this branch and then came back down that branch and then headed east again to the green X, where we finally, luckily, made our discovery. You notice we're going up and down many rivers, not knowing exactly where we might find someone. We were told they weren't in this area because this area here is well known and well known to missionaries and Indonesian government officials down here. But from about here on, these upper stretches up from here on were relatively unknown and rarely traveled or traveled almost never by outsiders.
The Lewis and Clark expedition
Yeah.
Well, kind of like that. Yeah, going on rivers and
going upriver.
going upriver. That's right. Exactly right. So let me tell you a few highlights before we get to the film. We departed from the coast on March 10th, 1974, 7:30 a.m. Our 6 people in a boat called a MAPI, M-A-P-P-I is the Indonesian word for it. It's a diesel-powered boat. It's about 20 feet long. Not big. It puts along with diesel. It makes a lot of noise. And going upriver, because the rivers come down to the coast, as you can see, they flow down. We were able to make 3 to 4 miles per hour. That's the speed. Coming downriver, we often made 8 or 9 miles an hour. Still not very fast. You have to be patient. That's interesting, isn't it? The first day, we made about 70 miles. I'm going to just give you the mileage because you're interested in this kind of thing, and I am too. And you guys are scientifically attuned. Altogether, before we made our discovery, we traveled 330 miles up and down the various rivers that you're seeing on the map. 330 miles. And then when we were done, we came straight back west on the main river that you see, a river called the Islandin. So, second day, we were going up toward that first branch. What are some of the things we saw? You'd be interested. We saw pandanus. We saw nipa. We saw sago. Those are various kinds of plants and palms. Lots of those. We saw breadfruit. What were some of the animals you'd be interested to know? We saw kite, egret, cockatoo, duck, parrot, crowned pigeon. That's pretty interesting. We certainly enjoyed those. We had 2 shotguns. The only reason we had 2 shotguns is so that we could shoot ducks and eat them, which we did. I was not the shooter, but one of my colleagues was the gunman and shot those successfully. We did not shoot anything else, and we certainly shot no people.
Peter,
Yes,
Did you see the Bluebird of Paradise?
elsewhere I've seen it, but not here. Not on this expedition, but you're right that it lives in that area. You are quite correct. Yeah. The Chenderawassi, yeah, the Bluebird of Paradise, but we did not see that. So what do we see the next day? For example, some of the things. I was piloting the boat part of the time on the second day. I'd never been a boat pilot before, but why not learn on an expedition, right? Absolutely. I had good people, including our indigenous friends who knew everything about piloting a boat. But while I was piloting it, we almost hit a sandbar. These rivers are very dangerous. There's trees and stumps and sand and rocks. These aren't just beautiful deep rivers like the middle of the Mississippi. These are relatively shallow, broad rivers. You got to be really careful. I'm glad I missed the sand. That same day, we shot one duck for lunch and had another one for supper. We also met some crocodile hunters who'd come up into that area because crocodiles are a big business. They were about here. The second day we made 50 miles. The third day we made 45. We were estimating 45 miles. On March 13th, 3 days after we left, we made it to the northernmost point of our voyage, which was right there in the foothills of the mountains. That's the northernmost point. Now, along the way, we were thinking, where are we going to see anyone, if we see anyone? Beyond a couple of the scattered villages which had been known to missionaries and Indonesian government folks, we saw a few scattered remnants of bivouacs and huts made of straw, or not straw, excuse me, of thatch and twigs, but they were abandoned. We saw a couple of gardens. The people are horticulturalists, abandoned. We thought, whoa, maybe they've, run away and don't want to be found. Well, yeah, possibly so. On that day also, we did strike rocks with our boat in a shallow area, and we were grounded. Now, what do you do with a 20-foot launch, 6 people, and you're grounded? Well, what you do, blessedly, since the water is shallow, is you get out, one person pilots the boat, and 5 people push. And blessedly, we were able to get our boat off the rocks. You have to be careful of crocodile. Yeah, this is part of the deal. You got it. Exactly. We were careful. We never were bothered. We saw crocodiles, but we're never bothered by them.
Peter, it's 11:10, just to give you a time check.
Yep. Okay, good. So we kept going. The next day, the 14th, we made 60 miles. The next day, the 15th, we made 40 more miles. And finally, the morning of the 17th, bingo. We came up, we were just about as far east as we could go on that river right there. We were starting to bottom out again. We did not want to get stuck. If you're stuck up there, nobody's going to rescue you. Nobody knows exactly where you are, and we had no radios. Remember, this is 1974. There's no radios. No radios. We had walkie-talkies to talk to ourselves, but no radios. Well, we stopped thinking, this is it. We're going to have to turn around. This expedition will be a failure. We've gone up and down all these rivers. We've gone 330 miles. We stopped, turned off the engine, and lo and behold, we heard a dog barking. You never have a dog in a place like that where there aren't humans. I quickly got out of the boat. Now we can go to the film. And I saw 6 footprints, recent human footprints in the sand. I mean, from that morning, 6 sets. So what you're going to see here, friends, is a film that we made. And it's washed out in the first part, but we're still going to show you the first part, even though it's washed out. There it is. It's don't worry, it's going to get good. This is the bad part. You can you barely see 2 human bodies? Those are our colleagues, our indigenous colleagues who are on the boat.
There's no sound.
There is no sound. I'm narrating. There's no sound in this film. You see
The lights.
Yeah, well, I can't turn them off, but somebody could turn them off. That's a great idea. Thank you. And don't worry, the color's going to get good. But our men are gesturing to people hiding in the bushes about 200 feet away. They're gesturing. You can see our two men gesturing. Waving, yelling. Of course, we don't know their language, so we don't know what they're saying, but they're yelling back. They're yelling back. And so we decided to stay on the boat and not go close. We knew these people were headhunters. And we didn't know if they would see us as enemies or just as strange aliens. Now just look there in the middle. Upper right, you see some dark shapes. Those are the 5 men. Those dark shapes. Coming out from behind the bushes. They're feeling a little more comfortable. How long has it been since we first spotted the dog? 4 hours. We've been very patient. We had to be patient. Now we're coming a little closer. You can see the trees. Again, it's washed out. Don't worry, it's going to get good. Just be patient. And as we're coming closer, there, now you see the men?
Yeah.
Right in the center? There they are. They're all armed. They all have bows and arrows and spears, but none of them are drawn. They're all in a peaceful pose. And they're waving at us. And we were waving at them. And now just off to the left, you can see some dark shadows again. Those are the men. And now, can you see in the middle of the screen? Don't worry, see them walking?
Yeah.
Can you see them holding all their spears and arrows? Yep, there they are. On the upper bank, the bank's about 15 feet above the level of the water, as you can tell. Now, we've come to the shore. Don't worry, it's gonna get better. Just keep watching. I never used this camera before, so I didn't know how it worked. It's a crank, I had to crank it by hand. Now, there's our friend Bob. He's talking to this man, the first man. The man you see in your page that I've handed out to you. You see that there's a picture of a man on the page I've handed you.
Yeah.
He's one of those 6 men. And they're quite jovial. Speaking of humor, they're patting Bob on the back. He's patting them on the back. And they're laughing, which we thought was a good sign. It's definitely a good sign. They're being very cautious. You notice they're all maintaining their weapons, but nobody is aiming a weapon at us. Now, this one guy is doing all the talking, but of course we don't know what he's saying, but that's okay. At least he's talking, and at least we're talking. It's raining, and that's the other problem. And so there's an umbrella. We have to bring out our umbrella. I'm both filming with a still camera and with this motion picture camera, the 16 millimeter hand crank motion picture camera. And now we're starting to get a little bit better photography because I'm learning a little bit more how to use the camera. Now it starts getting good. There they are. 3 of the men, 4 of the men, 5 of the men sitting there pondering us. We're down below, just 15 feet away. They're talking, they're strategizing, they're no doubt wondering about us. We're no doubt wondering about them. And but they're not running away, which is a very good sign. And then, long and short, we go to sleep, we spend the night. We signal to them that we're going to sleep, just like this. They got it. Then they showed us gesture. Isn't that something? And then the next morning, all these people came. Oh, look at that young guy. He's the youngest warrior. Only men and boys came. No women, no other children.
Why is that, Peter?
I'll tell you why. Yeah. Look at this guy looking at my camera. Isn't that terrific? He doesn't know what a camera is. There's the oldest man we met. Lively, dancing, friendly. The reason they danced like that, every time we snapped our light on our camera, still camera, to snap in the dark, somewhat dark jungle, they danced. We speculated that light was so important to them, like lightning. They might be people who revere lightning. And so that was our speculation. They're all curious. You can see they look nervous. They are. He was the most jumpy guy that we've had. Every time he had a big smile. You notice he's always holding their spears and their bows and arrows. They're always got that. But he's some smiley guy, another smiley guy. You see that rattan around their waist?
Yeah.
That's their clothing, so to speak. If they wear rattan, they are clothed.
Oh,
Their genitals are exposed. That's no problem. If they have rattan around their waist, they're quote unquote clothed. There we snapped the camera, and there they started jumping again.
They love the camera.
Huh.
There I am.
Oh, gee.
Now you can see my size compared to their size. These are not pygmies, but they are diminutive people. The tallest one we met was 5'4". And you notice I'm touching that man gently, and he's that older man, I'm touching his earpiece. Now, this is going to be key. See this young fellow that I'm talking to? We're squatting by the fire.
Yeah.
Now watch how I'm touching him in a pleasant way, and he's touching. You see how he's touching my knee in a pleasant way? We kind of hit it off. I gave him the thumbs up. He didn't know what thumbs up was, but he was friendly. Now you notice I'm pulling on lightly on his hair. You notice that? That's going to be critical to what I tell you in a minute or two. Remember that young man and me at the fire. Because there they go up the slope on the second day. We indicated we'd like to meet the women. And as soon as we gave gestures to meet the women, they got all 30 men together, had a big hubbub, and they disappeared into the forest.
Fearful.
They never came back?
We could hear them discussing something. Of course, we couldn't understand their language. We never saw them again. 2 days. So my friends, I have just a few more things to share about that encounter. A few points. We have plenty of time. Good. We're perfect time for
Yes.
Q&A.
Yes.
Lights, please. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed my film.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's one, as I shared with Steve earlier, it's one of the few films that exists anywhere in the world. Films of a first contact that we know of. Yeah, yes.
We've got microphones on each side of.
I have to say a few more things before we get to the
Okay,
Q&A. Yeah, just a
okay.
few more things. Because you'll want to know why that young fellow and I at the fire who hit it off, why we hit it off. Because as I reached for his hair, you saw me. I was gently pulling his hair. You can't do that to an elder. Remember, at the time, I was only 27 years old. You can't do that to an elder. That's disrespectful. But you can do it to a younger person or a person your age. You can touch them, not an elder. We already knew that from the general customs of people. So I was gently pulling on his hair, and then I would say, hair. And then I reached over to my hair, and I said, hair. I did that 3 times. And the third time, the light bulb went off in his brain, and he knew I wanted him to tell me the words of his language. That was one of the most amazing things of this whole voyage. He started telling me nonstop nouns, blessedly. We didn't want to get into verbs and that kind of thing. We couldn't do that. And so the very first word I learned of their language was fini, hair. It also means feather. Here are some of the other words. You'll see a couple in the handout I've given you. Yur, dog. Yisimuk, fire. Amu, bow. Biakum, arrow. Ti, canoe. Mbi, water. Sing, mud. Bush, pipe. They had smoking pipes of a kind of tobacco-like substance. I was privileged to then get about 100 words, thanks to this young man. I was writing them down as fast as I could, just using my own form of alliteration. He, of course, didn't know anything about writing or about written anything. He'd never seen writing. But he could see I was thinking, and I could repeat the word. After he said it, I could repeat it to him. And then he went to the next word, and the next word, and the next word. I'm telling you, it was a high point in my anthropological and human career. I'm honored to share with you that my word list later became the basis of their language. The Chitak, see up above, right hand, Citak, the Chitak language, and my list became the basis in the official New Guinea Dictionary of Languages. So we traded some artifacts.
Oh.
Here are 2 of their arrows.
Bamboo.
This is a type of bamboo shaft. You notice there's no feathering at the end.
Yeah.
These are shot by being balanced. You notice that, isn't that a intricate woodwork on the front? Those are wood. Those are not metal or stone. Those are wooden tips. Look at how they're fixed to the arrows. Beautiful fixation. They're used to shoot birds. This can't possibly be used to shoot something like a wild pig, which requires something much more. And they're not used to shoot humans. For humans, they shoot with large, usually spear them with spears and or with daggers. But aren't those terrific looking arrows?
Yeah.
I'm honored to have them. And what did I give them in return? A cup. Lowell, you got it, man. A cup. Lowell's a good reader. I'm not gonna pass these around because they're very delicate, but you're welcome to look at them afterwards. Well, I want the final humorous thing before we open it to questions. It was going so well. They disappeared, yes. And by the way, you might be thinking, how did you gesture that you wanted to meet the women?
Yeah.
Because I did not know the word for woman. Let me show you, ladies, I don't think you'll be offended. We all have professional people here in the audience. This is how we gestured.
Yeah.
Generally in that area, it's obviously a woman, go to village. That's it. Women, go to village. They got it right away. We only did that once, which caused them to have their hubbub, the 30-person hubbub and disappear.
So Peter, were they afraid you had come for women or?
I don't know what they thought.
Okay.
So my friends,
Maybe take their women.
apart from,
Yeah.
exactly, they were protecting the women.
Yeah.
So I am open to Q&A. You can ask me absolutely anything. I'll answer as best I can.
Okay.
And we have microphones.
Peter, how frightened were you when you first stepped on
I was not frightened. I was anxious. But I was not frightened. They never did anything to frighten us.
Good point.
Yeah, but I was anxious. And you could see in the film, they were anxious.
Yeah.
You could see they were nervous. They were friendly and smiley and dancy, but nervous. Yeah.
How did you know they were actually the untouched people that handled?
Because they had no elements of the outside world.
How did you know that before you talked to them?
Well, we assumed that was the case, but
You made your decision that they were the people you were searching for.
they were one of the people we were searching for,
Okay.
because there might have been other people up there too. You remember who had disappeared that we didn't see. These are the ones we were lucky enough to encounter. Another reason we knew they were uncontacted is it took us 4 hours to get from the boat to the shore. If they would have had contact with other people like us, they would have rushed out and wanted to start trading artifacts. They had no artifacts from the outside world,
Okay.
not even a single piece of metal. So that's another reason we knew. Yeah,
Didn't recognize your Capital One card.
that's right. That's for sure.
Who's got?
So
Go
are
ahead.
dogs indigenous there? I mean,
Isn't that
if you're
something?
uncontacted,
Yeah.
where did the dog come?
Yeah, the dogs come from, there are dogs all over New Guinea. And I don't know the history of dogs in New Guinea, but they're everywhere. Isn't that something? Is all I can say. And they're in remote areas and,
I have one
yeah,
other
please,
question.
please.
Had there ever been slave trading there like as in Africa?
No,
Okay.
no slavery in that area. Now, has there been later oppression and whatnot by the Indonesian government? Yes, but no slave trading, I'm very glad to say. Let's see, Rebecca.
Well, what is the origin history of these people? Where did they originally come?
Well, they're basically their ancestors have been there for 40,000 years. The Papuan people have, in various iterations, have been there for 40,000 years.
Where did they arrive by
They came via Southeast Asia.
land? By land bridge?
They had to come by land bridges, and there's one place, Rebecca, you're asking a good question, in that Indonesian archipelago where there was never a land bridge. Their ancestors had to have some kind of a raft.
Hmm.
40,000 years ago. Isn't that something? Great
Yeah.
question. Yes, Dorley.
I thought you had said that these were known to be headhunter.
Yes, they're headhunters.
Say, what made you notice that? I mean, were they?
Well, because we know immediately in that area of other people, and that tradition of headhunting extends over that entire area of west central New Guinea. So did we see them do headhunting? No, we did not. But also later confirmed by other people who went in many years later, who also confirmed that they had been headhunters. Yes, that's right.
But they look so friendly.
They are friends. I like to paraphrase Will Rogers, who said, "I never met a man I didn't like, Peter Van Arsdale says, I never met a headhunter I didn't like.
Very.
Was there further contact with these people that we know anything about?
Yes, thank you, Larry. I was going to mention that. Thanks for asking. So we never went back again. We're hoping for their best. You'll be very glad to know we did not publicize where they live. We told some people like in the Explorers Club, the Explorers Club was honored me by inviting me to be a fellow based on my discovery. But we never told people exactly where they lived. And so that was left a secret. That was our idea, to leave them as they were. However, no surprise, others got in there, missionaries, Indonesian government officials, lumbering, lots of lumbering people. There's wonderful hardwoods. They're teak quality hardwoods in these forests. Got in there, of course. And so Larry, my friend who was recently there, an anthropology friend who's at Cambridge University, says he believes the descendants of the people we discovered now live in a small village called Siepenham. That's his inference, that 50 years later, their descendants, of course, in a village well-known to missionaries and government officials that has a school.
Oh, okay.
And that's where their descendants are today.
Wonder if they have
Jake.
iPhones.
Peter.
Peter,
Yes,
you
you-
got our attention at the outset when you said this expedition. In a way taught you what it meant to be human.
Yes,
Do you mind elaborating? If you had one takeaway, what did you mean by that?
what I meant was, and I hope you'll be thinking about it too, Gene, because that's one of the things I think is important for our class and our great friends who are contemporary issueites, if that's a word I can coin. By making that contact, I felt I was in presence of extremely similar, yet extremely different humans in the greatest sense of cultural awareness, and I say this humbly, valuing them as humans, seeing their humor. That humor was a particularly powerful point for me.
Surprising.
The second day, I was sitting near that fire not long after I talked to the young man who gave me this word list, and I was just reveling in my excitement about the word list. I was sitting there on a stump all by myself. The other people, both the expedition people and tribal people, were gathered around, hobnobbing, again, in different languages, but still hobnobbing. And suddenly, speaking of humor, a giant swarm of bees came out of the jungle. We were on the riverbank and descended only on me. Only. You know, we all have pheromones and hormones and all those kind of things that people have, and they differ, as you know, from person to person. Somehow that was my day. It was, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. It must have been 1,000 bees. And I was sitting there and I covered by bees. I had my shorts, you saw what I had, but bright yellow striped shirt, sitting there. And I thought, isn't this ironic? I am going to die. I'm serious. I thought, I'm going to die by being stung to death, not by headhunters who cut up my head. There's no sign of that. I'm going to die because the bees sting me to death. And then I was thinking 10 seconds later, why aren't these men, these indigenous experts, coming to help me? They just stood there and they were laughing. And then I thought they might know something. And they did, because my friends, these were non-stinging bees.
Good story.
I didn't get one sting. I started brushing them off. The men kept laughing. They thought that was so, they knew I was scared. They could see that. And they knew I wasn't going to be hurt. Isn't that terrific? Humor.
That's funny. So under 30, let's take just a couple more minutes. Eric, and then grab the microphone behind Alan so Alan can do the last question, please.
Sure, you bet.
I had two questions.
Please.
Did you ever have to deal with the effects of malaria or some other
I never had,
tropical disease?
I've never had malaria.
And did you ever meet Jared Diamond, the author of Guns?
I use some of his material, but I've never met him. Yeah.
Did you ever meet Indiana Jones?
No, didn't meet him, but Denver Museum of Nature and Science said I was Denver's Indiana Jones.
I think you are.
So let's see, Alan has a question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Alan.
For your presentation. I noticed in the first part of your video when,
You mean the washed out part,
well, just right
right? When it gets better.
when it became a little bit better. I noticed one person of your party was smoking.
Yes,
And I also noticed that one of the vocabulary that, words that you recorded, was the smoking pipe.
yes, exactly.
So I was wondering whether or not that for them to see one of your people of your party, smoking, did that break out the peace pipe and they
That's a good question,
were
Alan.
able to smoke with you or did they?
Actually, what you saw was smoke drifting because no one in our party smoked. What you saw was drifting smoke, but you were correct in noticing smoke. Now, back to the smoking pipe. They have smoking pipes it's not traditional tobacco, because of course, traditional tobacco comes from elsewhere in the world, but a kind of substance similar to tobacco in a two-part pipe is the filters here, and the part with the tobacco or the packed, I should call it tobacco-like substances here, and they do smoke that. And they have no, as far as we know, no alcoholic beverages, no drugs, other than this, perhaps if it's a drug-like, substance they're smoking, but no hallucinogens or anything like that. So good question about smoking, Alan. Very good question.
Very good. I wish we could go on for much longer, but if you have questions, come up and ask Peter. We have to let the class go. Thank you, Peter, for
Thank you.
wonderful presentation. Very good. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks DLOG people for coming to be here.
Bye-bye.
Delighted you came. Thank you, Kathy.